moment. That's going to be a little bit nerve-wracking. I'm about to put a hot battery in this car for the first time in probably 10 years. Now, all the wiring in the engine bay, I've looked over. It's a little crispy. It's been exposed to the weather for 10 years, but it should be okay. I did have to rebuild the harness for the starter. Now inside, it had the tops on it, but the dash was completely removed. I don't know why they did that, but they did. So basically what we can do is, the dash harnesses on these cars are fairly simple. So I can tell you offhand what most goes to. So like, for example, here's the headlight switch, which when I need to put a knob back in it or unplug it, because that's going to be on because the switch is out. Here is all your speedometer hookups, turn signals, brights, all that kind of stuff. Then you have your tachometer hookups on the other side right here, kind of this cluster right here. Underneath you have all your hookups for things like the steering column, ignition switch, turn signal switch. This is different. I don't know what that's for. This knob, chrome bumper car thing that I'm not used to. Here in the middle, that gauge panel, in 72 all the gauges were separate. You see that? So that means we have kind of this cluster right here that is all separate. This yellow wire is undone, but I think it goes to this radio hookup right here. We can undo that. That's trash. Let's see. Most of this other stuff is for the climate controls. And you know what? All this stuff I see connected to stuff. There's no, crazy loose wires that I feel like are going to short once I put power to everything. So far so good from what I can see. Here's a loose wire. Where does this go to? Random white wire. Alright, well that's about the only wire I see that I don't know what it goes to. And it has a factory clip on it, so who knows. So we'll kind of leave that one be where we can see it. I need to get a headlight switch knob, and I probably need to, well, we won't be using that. That's totally shot. I'm hoping it's just the cylinder, I don't know. Something's broken inside of this column. We might need to take the column out, but what we can do is I probably have another ignition switch that we can plug into those things if we need to use that. So this 72 is interesting. The positive cable, which runs this way and then down through the transmission tunnel, is on the left side, and then this negative cable, which runs down to this corner and then to the frame, is on the right side. The battery is switched. But what I want to do is I want to see if I can't connect this by hand. See if we get a big pop, then we know we have a dead short somewhere. I'm not getting much anything, so I don't hear anything, I don't see any smoke, so we'll hook it up and see what happens. First test we always have to do is all the lights. I don't even know if we got any kind of power at all. Oh, look at that. We got tail lights. She's coming back to life. I got a marker out, so that's okay. The brights look like they're working. Headlights. Oh. There we go. Fix that one. Looks like we got some markers out, but hey, it's a good sign. I'm not even gonna try. Well, I guess what we can do, you You see these gray ones? These gray ones are lights for illumination of the gauges. And if all these bulbs look really crappy, I wouldn't expect if any of these bulbs are going to work. But next thing we can do is we can try to see if the motor will turn over with the ignition switch that I put in. Okay, that should be ignition on, and I can do it with one hand. Nothing. Sometimes these dirty battery cables can cause the lights to work but the starter not to. The starter takes quite a bit of load. You can see they're not in the best of shape. So I plan on cleaning them up, and then also maybe putting new little terminals in them. So that way we can get a good contact and try to turn over the motor one more time. Oh, breaking stuff. Alright, let's try this again. So this should be ignition on, and this should be crank. There we go. I don't have the engine attached to the transmission, so I think that's why it sounds the way it does. The flex plate is definitely flexing. So there we go. Let's put it back into not ignition on. And that's one thing we don't have to worry about now. Next we can worry about actual ignition power to my coil. So for this points ignition to work, there's basically two wires. One is going to be this wire right here. It should have power on when the car is on. I believe also when it's cranking, but it should be a fairly dim. It should light the bulb fairly dimly because it's a lowered voltage. And then this wire should only have power when the car is actually cranking, and it should be higher. This goes from the S terminal on the solenoid. Excuse me, not the S terminal, the other terminal, the one opposite of the S terminal, and it goes to the coil. So if we can confirm we have power here with the ignition on, let's see what happens. This is much harder to do this way than with a key. Okay, so that's ignition on. So we confirmed that one gives extra power while cranking, and then one gives power while the ignition is on. Those look like my power wires for my coil, so we can check that off the list, and we're one step closer to firing this thing up. Alright, let's prime it a little bit. So the carburetor is primed, the ignition system is tested, and we do have spark. All the spark plug wires are run. These kits, these pre-fit kits suck because their wires are way too long. The cooling system is done, so we have new water pump, we have thermostat, radiator hoses, a new fan, a new belt. The only thing that's really not hooked up is the alternator, but that doesn't matter. The engine is full of oil. It is not attached to the transmission yet. All I want to do is fire it in the car for a little bit. As much as gas as there is in the carburetor, that's all I want it to do. Alright, I'm expecting a lot of noise, a lot of smoke. Let's see what happens. We have accelerator on. Don't. So it can take more gas to eat it. There we go. There's a good shot. Shot close. battery connected. It's my screwdriver. Alright, boys and girls. Let's see what happens. Oh. Fire. Yum. Try again. Sounds like ignition. There's some noises. What are those noises? It ran though. What was that popping? Huh. That's weird. It ran though. What do you guys think that popping was? It's hard to diagnose anything when you're not in the next to the car. I think it was this. Anyway. What do you guys think that popping was? It wasn't this, was it? I must have a wire crossed somewhere. That's probably what I have. I checked the firing order. We should be good. I don't know what that noise was. Hopefully it's not a knocking motor. That'd be really great. Maybe that was just a really loud exhaust leak because the headers down at the bottom don't really seal very well. Yep, that's an exhaust leak. That's what that is. I feel like that should run a lot longer than it does, though. That's all the gas I got. So, let's see what happens now. I think that's as good as we're going to get with the carburetor that we have. Alright, next on the order we need some header gaskets for the bottom that aren't made of aluminum and will actually crush. And then we also need a different carburetor, or at least maybe fuel to this one and a choke that disengages. I don't know. I mean, I also don't have a throttle cable that will work with this either. So it ran though. That's a start. That's the first time it's done that in a long time. I failed to get this on camera. Check out all the dirt that came out of the exhaust. Not surprising considering rodents use it for a house. But yeah, lots of dirt. So it has come time to run this car up to temperature. So I have gas coming out of a gas can next to the car, going into the fuel pump and then into the carburetor. I plan on priming the carburetor with the little bottle. I just don't trust what's in the lines and what's in the tank after all those years of sitting outside in the rain. So we're gonna do it this way first. I think it's raining outside, so we can open the doors. But let's see if we can get this up to temperature and get a better listen at the motor than it running for all of 10 seconds. And it is raining like crazy out. but we're still gonna fire it up. Hopefully the noise won't cancel out what this sounds like. We'll see. Alright, we're idling, not leaking. Don't die, don't die, don't die. Come on, oh, you poop. I'm gonna let it warm up, get some heat in it. So far. The exhaust sounds really good. The timing about 10 degrees before top dead center. I don't know if you guys can see that. Probably not. So temperature, we're right at 180. I don't have an actual water temp gauge, but this is the closest as I got. There's no smoke coming out of the valve covers. And there's no smoke coming out of the exhaust. So, even with the naysayers of YouTube, this engine is a good engine. It might not run very well because this carburetor is not 100%, but we'll get one. The ants are abandoning ship. So far, so good. I think it needs a different carburetor and a different base gasket. The base gasket that I used was obviously used, and I think it has a vacuum leak right here on the side because when smoke was coming out, when it backfired, it was coming out the side as well. So we'll get that figured out, but this sucker's a runner, and it sounds good. Woo! Little pops.